Hi, we're Bob and Katie and Dada with Crosspoint Church, and this is Marriage Stories. This is where we get to interview and talk with another couple who have been married for a period of time, and we get to find out who they are and share what they've been through.
Yeah, so today we are happy to have Lee and Carol Stout with us. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. So first off the bat, how many years have you been married?
We're coming up on 37.
On 37 years. Well, congratulations, guys. So we are here this evening just to get to know a little bit more about you, how it got to be that you were married, and what maybe nuggets of, truth and wisdom that you might have to pass along to maybe younger generations. So we're going to get started. So tell us a little bit about how you guys met.
Well, we met when Carol moved in across the street from me in 1968. She was 4 and I was 8.
Oh, wow.
So we've our families have been friends for a very long time, and that's how we got to meet. And our first date was actually October 1st, 1980. And we went out on a date. We were actually, Carol's brother asked us to double date with him. They had to double date until they were 18, and he didn't have a double date, so he asked me to go on a date with him, and I told him, well, I don't have a girlfriend right now, so he said, take my sister. And so that's how it all started.
So you were kind of the chaperones, but
yeah.
Okay.
Now,
oh my goodness.
Now, what'd you do? This was 1980. Did you go to the mall, I guess?
No, we went to drive-in theater.
Ah.
They had those back then.
Yeah, they were still hanging on back in the 80s, right? So I have to go back a little bit, though. So you've got all these years, the entire 70s, that you were neighbors. Any connection there? Any talking? Did the families, get together and do things, or?
Not really, but I was really close with Carol's older brother, and Carol and I talked, throughout the years. We grew up on a cul-de-sac with 13 houses, so everybody was really close in the neighborhood. But we were four grades apart, so that back then was a world of difference.
Yeah.
And it still was even when we started dating, but we're just doing it as a favor.
So walk us through. The first date is over, although do you guys see it as a date, or do you see it as, oh, we're just chaperones? How did that work?
We weren't chaperones, really. I mean, my brother's older than I am.
Okay.
But that was the rule that we had in our house, that we had to double date. So I guess the double date, whoever they were, ended up canceling. So it was a last minute thing so that my brother and his girlfriend could go out.
Okay. So any sparks on that very first date of the drive-in?
Yeah. And then we just started talking a lot. We became good friends. We didn't really start going out a lot at first.
No, I'd go sit on his front porch and we'd spend a couple hours just sitting out there talking, and periodically we'd go for a walk around the neighborhood, but we weren't really dating.
We were, we talked a lot before that because she was really good friends with my sister. Like I said, it was such a tight-knit neighborhood, and I'm not really sure when it really started taking off. I don't recall.
Right. Well, that would be my next question. When did you know that you were in love?
For me, it was
down.
Yeah.
It was when?
A couple of years ago.
You decided. All right. I love you.
I would say probably because we started dating in October, I would say probably by Christmas time was when I really knew that I loved him.
Mm-hmm. That's neat.
And what about you?
You better come up with the right answer, Lee.
Oh my goodness. All right, so it's not one of the questions, but walk us through quickly engagement. What did that look like? And then wedding day. Anything memorable?
That's kind of funny. Lee's parents' 25th anniversary was coming up, and so a lot of his family was coming in town. And we had talked, in the past about that we wanted to get married someday and, spend our lives together. But that summer, it was like July, we found out all his family was coming out. And so he said, why don't we just go ahead and get married this year? So we got married October 1st. So it was very, very quick trying to put everything together. But it was a big surprise. It was a surprise 25th anniversary for his parents. So it was
well,
pretty
that's neat. So was this 1981? Was this the following year?
It was 83.
Okay, so there was a few years of dating then, right?
Yeah,
3 years. Yeah. Okay. And how do you feel about that? So if you're talking to a new couple, long courtship, short courtship,
friendship.
Yeah.
friendship. Okay.
That's what it should be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job.
Excellent. A+ so far. All right. So what's a fun tradition in your family?
I'll let you. We really don't have any right now. We used to get together a lot with our siblings and their families, but all the kids have grown up and they're starting their own traditions right now. And so our siblings a lot of them are traveling and they're off doing their own thing. So right now we're looking for a tradition for ourselves or
Good.
kids or something, but it's difficult to try to figure something out.
Yeah. I want to start traditions with the grandkids, especially.
Yeah.
But it's hard right now with Wisconsin. So.
Right.
Anything particular that you did like on a yearly basis when the kids were growing up? Anything that you're like, we had to do that?
Well,
at Christmas, we have to look at Christmas lights. I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, and at the beginning of November, every year we would go drive out to Valley Center and pick a Christmas tree, a live one, and then go back and get it for Christmas. And that was always fun because sometimes it had grown about 4 more feet by the time we picked it.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All I can picture is the Christmas Vacation movie, right? Where it's too big and they can't get it in the house. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that is a fun tradition, right? To go pick out the live Christmas tree and make it a drive. So, yeah.
They'll remember that. And then, they may try to do that themselves too, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Wisconsin has the best Christmas tree farms. They're huge. I mean, they go for miles.
Wow.
So is wanting to go do that with the kids this year.
Yeah, not much. We don't get much of that around California. Yeah, no big Christmas tree farms. Okay, so we're shifting a little bit. We've got all the good stuff. We know about marriage, about dating. So during our marriages, obviously, we all come across times that are more difficult than others. So one of the questions we were asking was whether there was a particular verse, whether for each of you individually or together, that you could share with us for other people that might be, as they hit difficult times.
It would be Romans 8:28. That one has always been one of my favorites. It's really helped me through a lot. And then
mine as well. We've been through a lot of tough times, and this has always seen us through.
Yeah.
You want to read it?
I can read it. You think I anymore,
Yeah.
but and we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose.
I've shared that a lot with my kids growing up, but I've paraphrased it. But they say it, back to me when they hit tough times. They're like, I don't know why I'm worried, because everything always works out for good, because we've seen that in your life. So we've been able to share that with them.
Well, yeah, and you guys have a great testimony. I know Carol, gosh, it was many years ago now, right, that you shared your testimony in front of the church for a whole weekend. I remember, right, all 3 services, they had you up there sharing. So any advice for maybe younger couples that maybe haven't hit, any adversity yet, of tips, obviously going to the Bible and having those verses and, that's super important, but any other advice?
Well, I know there's a verse in the Bible. I don't remember where these verses are. I just, I paraphrase everything pretty much. But it's that, I just feel like, what was it Bob Ross used to say? Oh, it'll come back to me now. I just had.
Yeah. Oh, no worries. Okay. Well, good. Thank you. All right. So if you had to do it all over again, like from day one, honeymoon, right after the honeymoon, if you had to do it all over again, what would you change? What's something you would change?
I don't think personally I would change anything about our marriage, just about things that we chose to do in our life.
Okay.
Starting our businesses,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
pretty
they
much,
just take.
they take too much from the family and the kids.
Okay. Okay, now that's good though, because there's a lot of people that don't realize that. So you're saying you would maybe not spend so much time investing in your business and more time with the family?
I think we would have just skipped making a bit, going into
Okay. Okay.
keep me at home.
Yeah, not worth it.
That was not worth it.
Mm.
I've always
Okay.
had an entrepreneurial mindset, so I've always worked for other people, and so I've always pushed to start different types of businesses. And we come to make a business, and we had a printing business. This is how we church.
Yes.
The sort of printing business, so that was a blessing. But they end up taking up too much time. But I mean, God has blessed me because I've been running my own consulting business for over 3 years now, not unintentionally. But it's just been blessing us with it. Yeah. So I still got to use my skills, and even though I stopped setting out to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's something good about, like you said, when it just kind of falls in your lap, right? It wasn't a lot of striving, right, to do that. When it's there's some peace about that, right? When it's just like, this must be a God thing, because it's just so easy.
Going back to that Bible verse, I got sick, and so we had to close the business. And because of that verse, and what I've really learned from God through that verse, is I look back at that as a blessing, because I'm not working the business and staying away from my family, and I'm getting to know my grandkids. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
I can see the blessing doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's important, right? To be able to look back at, at the time, something can be really difficult, but seeing the pieces of the puzzle, sometimes we don't get it during it, right? Yeah.
That's what it was. I was thinking it's count it all joy,
You go through, right.
Versus it's count it all joy. And I had a friend that always used to say that in the bad times, just, wait, because it's going to be a joyous time in the end. And they all have turned out to be.
Right.
There's been some bad times where, the economy really took a dive. I lost my job, was out of work for about 6 months. And I mean, it was just this very stressful time. But now I look back at it as joyful, because I got to take my oldest son to kindergarten for the first time, got to pick him up from school, and
Watch
that type of thing.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I watch cartoons with him in the afternoon, and I forget all the bad part,
Right.
so it really was joyous, and he remembers me spending the time with him. So that's good.
And what's nice is through those bad times, I know sometimes we get mad at God,
Mm-hmm.
and God understands that. And if we get mad at Him, we need to really draw on the fact that we're forgiven. So it's not that God's not going to abandon us because we got mad and even yelled at Him.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through, he went through numerous layoffs. And so even the second time, I was still mad, and I was literally yelling at God from in our living room. But by the third time, I was like, hey, why am I getting so mad? There's got these joys that come out of that, but we also know He'll bring us through it.
Yeah, thank you. That's so important. And like I said, I think a lot of couples. That's
Yes.
going to be some really good words of wisdom for them. They may not remember it right now, but yeah, it's for infamy now recorded, so they can they can play back Lee and Carol anytime and hear what they have to say. So thank you.
With the adversities, like we really enjoyed hiking together, and then Carol got sick with this disease that prevents her from doing that. And also, we just took a look and said, okay, so what are we going to do differently? Instead of getting mad or anything else, how are we going to change our life around this so we can still enjoy some of the things we used to enjoy? So we went out and bought our used convertible, and now we take drives in it. We've been doing this for how long? 7 years now. Take drives in it all the time, up and down the coast, through the mountains. We can't hike it, but we can sure drive it.
Right.
I love that. That's great.
That's neat.
Oh my goodness. All right, so we have some wifey and husband questions now for you. So Carol, what's the most important thing that you would share that you think a wife should know?
That their husband likes to be praised. And it's really a good thing to do, whether you're on the phone with your girlfriend or you're at some friend's house at dinner, to compliment or even brag about your husband. You know, like, let's say, you know, oh, you wouldn't believe it, yesterday my husband, he was wonderful, he cleaned the bathroom for me. But you don't say it really where you know they can hear it. You know, like they're not in the room, but you know they're in the other room, and you say it loud enough where they can. And in doing so, find that your husband wants to do those things because he knows you really like it, you enjoy it, and you're bragging about it. You know, so now they're this great husband, so they've got to hold up to that. So that's something I would say is good.
And you agree with that, Lee?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He better.
Well, you know, since I've been sick, he's been amazing. He does, I would say, 98% of the cleaning and about 100% of the cooking. So, I mean, he's really been good. Now I can brag about it.
There you go. And he's right there
Perfect.
next to you. He hears this one. Oh my goodness.
All right, so Lee, what is the most, well, not the most important, but what's an important thing for a husband to know? Like, you know, if you're just chatting with a younger guy.
I think most people have heard, you know, the saying, happy wife, happy life.
Yeah.
That's really not a saying, it's a lifestyle. And God calls us to that. He tells us to love our wives. And that doesn't mean passionately, just passionately, things like that. It means care for them, take care of them, meet their needs. So you can't leave everything for your wife to do. I know a lot of men, you know, they take their weekends, they go out golfing and play basketball and that type of thing, and leave their wife home to do everything. Well, we decided early on, even before we were really understood marriage or anything else, that we were going to split the chores. We're going to do everything together. And that's really, I think that's really helped us get really close. But I mean, she even used to help me with the yard work, and I would help her with the housework.
I hated yard work.
Well, to this day, I mean, now she can't do all the housework, but I sure can. And so it keeps her, you know, it keeps her happy. It keeps me happy. And if she's happy, I'm happy. And, you know, it really does become a lifestyle. Like she'll ask me, well, what color do you want to paint the kitchen? I said, I don't care. As long as it's clean. You know, it's totally, you know,
As long as you like it.
You know, it doesn't, those kind of things that used to be critical go away. You know, it's just whatever, if it makes her happy, I'm happy, you know, and that's, you kind of have to look at it through God's eyes. God, you know, we're supposed to love our wives like Christ loves the church. Well, that's how he loves the church. It's physical, you know, it's passionately, physically, it's doing things, it's people moving within the church, you know, and the same thing at your house.
That's right.
So you have to, you know, we're called to become one, not to stay two.
Right. Perfect.
Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, guys. That's some good info for
Yeah.
both. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, so kind of our last question, a big one. Take as much time as you need to dive into this one. What's a small thing that couples can do to keep their marriages fun and engaging? So whether this is something that you guys have actually done through the years and have found have worked, or maybe it's something you haven't had an opportunity to, but you're like, this would be important. Share away.
I find so much joy in a lot of things, not that are like fun like that. I just find it to be fun to spend time with Carol. So, especially if we get out, like I was saying, the drives, those kind of things really help because we have to put down the technology. And that's, one of my weaknesses is my phone. And
I'm surprised he's not sitting here with it in front of him.
I don't have it in my hand. Because I have ADD, so I have to be multitasking all the time. Well, when we're on a drive, we don't usually put the radio on, we talk.
Right.
And so, and I find that to be really fun and therapeutic for me, especially I love to go drive through the mountains or by the beach or whatever. And I'm in awe of God's creation. I always have been. I always, was into photography and taking scenic pictures and things. So I get to do that, but I get to really get into deep discussions with my wife, and that's fun to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always have to, we can't go play volleyball or anything like that anymore. So I guess it depends on where you are in life, but you need to find things to do together that you enjoy.
Right.
And like I said earlier on, before we even got married, we started talking about how we wanted our life to look in the future. So we said, well, I like to do this, and she said, I like to do this, but we don't both like to do it, so we gave it up. So we only went after things that we both like to do together, and it just becomes a life that way.
All right, so I have a question for you with that, Lee. That's not always easy to do. So walk us through how that maybe looked. How were you able to find things in common that you both liked?
I think that all happened when we were dating.
Yeah, it really did.
That we wouldn't have got married if it wasn't for all the things that we love to do that were the same.
Well, I had never been like up to the mountains, and he had a truck, so we would go off-road, and I'd never done that before, and I ended up really liking it because I've always liked seeing what God's created, and just got a real close look at it by going up there. So yeah, that was something we found together. Well, it was something he liked, but I liked, so it became a together thing.
That was a huge passion of mine. Off-roading used to be just a tremendous passion. Yeah. But again, you have to kind of go with the flow. You have to change your life. After her brain surgery, she couldn't do it anymore because it caused problems in her. It gives her a headache. So I gave that up, and we found something else to do together that we enjoyed, which
there again was the car, the one for drives.
And hiking.
Yeah.
We were hiking before that. I actually found that I liked hiking just as well as I did going off-road because it was the same thing. We talked as we did it, and
we got in shape.
For this area, I mean, that's a really killer thing for couples, especially newlyweds, to do, is go up the Santa Rosa Plateau and hike. There's miles and miles of trails up there, and you leave your phones at home.
Yeah. We used to take the Intersect with us, so we would take the Intersect and we'd go up to Santa Rosa Plateau and take a nice walk along their hiking trails. And a lot of times they have like a bench out there or something. So we would sit with this gorgeous view and go over the Intersect questions for small.
So just clarify, so for people that don't know, they're talking about the homework for small groups. All right, so I have another follow-up question, Lee.
I warned you.
Here we go. So, and again, I don't want this to sound sexist. It really could go either way, but since you're the one that mentioned it, I'm going to ask you. So what would you say if a gentleman listened to your story and, heard, for instance, the off-roading and your story about how, I gave that up because it was something that Carol couldn't do anymore. What if you have maybe, let's say, a guy that's been married 5 years that says, I don't want to give it up. I need my own thing to do.
I think that's okay too, as long as it's not an every weekend thing.
Okay.
Most guys, if they're going to go to the desert and go, off-road or go do something like that, it's going to be, every couple of months or so. Maybe, I think that's okay. We just happen to not have our own things like that.
Okay.
Well, but if his wife, let's say if his wife enjoyed it just as much as he did, that would be hard. For me, that would have been hard because I was already grieving things I couldn't do. So if he had continued to do that, I think my grieving process would have been longer.
But I think it's okay to do some separate things if you don't have the same passions and you still want to do it. It's just so many times I see, especially the men, go off and do things every weekend without their wife and pursue their passions, and they think their wife's passion is doing the laundry. You know?
It's not. It's not.
No, I know. I do all the laundry. So.
That's your passion.
Well, I appreciate that. I just thank you for allowing and elaborating on that feedback, because I do think that, you know, that can be a challenge on both ends for, you know, for spouses. Yeah. So thank you. Well, we have come to the end, guys. We appreciate all that you've shared with us. Any parting words that you would like to tell us?
I would say marriage is hard, and just keep working through it, because you made that commitment. Just making that commitment. And like I said, we're called to love our wives. We're called to love each other, and love really is an action. It's not something, you know, that the passion doesn't always stay there for life, but you just have to be purposeful about making sure you're loving your spouse and loving them. By doing that, you just automatically will love them and love everything they do and become closer to them. So just keep loving each other, no matter what.
And communicating. That's huge. Communication. You know, I mean, when we first had Chris, you know, that communication, he didn't really talk to me about how he was feeling with, you know, you have a baby, now you're breastfeeding, everything's about the baby. And so he was feeling very, I don't want to say left out, but ignored, you know. So it was a good 8 months probably before it got to the point where he's blowing up. I don't understand what the problem is, you know, and he was ready to go move out, you know. So we were finally able to just sit and talk about it. And it was like, wow, I had no idea. It just didn't even occur to me that he was feeling neglected and ignored. So communication's huge.
Yeah, don't let it get that far.
Yeah.
Right.
More often it is, though, right? And maybe, I don't know, is it harder for men to communicate? I don't know. I don't want to throw that on men, but it seems.
I don't know.
I don't know. Never tried it before.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Oh, well, thank you guys. We appreciate you spending the time and sharing with us.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks very much. And that's it. I think that's all we have. So we'll have a good rest of your evening. And thanks for all the people watching this. And we will see you again next time on Marriage Stories.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.